Thank you very much for taking some time to listen in. I'm pleased to share our little journey that's become quite a big journey. We first suspected our son Mason had some sort of developmental delay around the 1-year mark. So he wasn't repeating sounds or trying to make any sounds. And as the weeks went by, I was starting to get concerned. He loved to line up all his toys, his trains and blocks in straight lines. And he would put things on his fingers and do this, which we now know is stimming, hindsight. So we started to ask a few questions. Our family doctor, as with Matt, a lot of the early moments of our journey are very much as Matt felt and as Matt experienced with his family. We were referred to First Words through our family doctor. Speech language pathologist stepped in to give us some tips to encourage language. And the great moment of the assessment came when we headed over to CHEO and spent some time with the pediatrician. On our return trip for the results, I had that feeling, and one of the first things that the pediatrician said was, "So, what do you think?" I don't think she said is wrong with Mason, but what do you think Mason has is probably where she went with that. And I immediately said, I think he has autism. And she just looked at me and said, "You're right, he does." And listen, I get that little lump in my throat because that was my defining moment. So excuse me, because it's, I don't want it to be this sad, but that every time I say those words, I always think that was our defining moment, especially mine. So yes, normal reaction. We got in the car and my husband drove and I cried all the way back home to Rockland, 45 minutes plus. So, and then I sort of wiped myself off and realized that we had a journey and that we were going to make the best for our son and his world. So off we went. So we were very fortunate that our diagnosis came very quickly, probably by the 20-month mark. So we were off and running. Now as Mason gets older, he's about to turn 10, my feelings aren't as raw, except for that moment that I just described when we heard the diagnosis. Now the pity party is over and we just get on to the business of having fun and loving our child and just making his world a great place. Our beginning story, though, we navigated a lot differently than how things are today based on resources and such. So, but there are some things that we did that everyone does. We jumped into as much as we could. Anyone who recommended something for us to try and we could get in and do it, we did it, including ABA, as Matt talked about, the parent classes to learn how to help Mason in that sense and to do repetitive things to keep his learning curve. We also wanted to start to understand, what the world looks like and feels like and sounds like for him. So we were much more sensitive to that, let's say. I also remember, because we're out in Rockland, that a social worker called our house in the early days of Mason's diagnosis. And I was a bit taken aback. I welcome all support now, but back then it was new and I thought, oh, this is strange, but what a wonderful support to have someone like our family support workers at CHEO, or in my case, the social worker who stepped in first. She just said, hey, it's going to be okay. And she started to introduce us to the various support services that were available, and some still are. I'll make a mention in passing of something called the incontinence grant. We knew that our son wasn't going to toilet train very easily in the beginning. So she mentioned, hey, apply for this grant just to help with the diapers that are going to last much longer than your 3 or 4 years mark. So that was one. We also looked at special services at home, another support that's great. And this would allow some funding for you for respite or to assist with special camps or mainstream camps to, in our case, help Mason enjoy playing hockey or doing something where he has to practice being social and be out in the world with his neurotypical teammates. So you'll get a lot thrown at you, but there are some amazing support services out there, even beyond CHEO, which we of course know is the ultimate in support. So Those are things that we were very happy to learn about that I wouldn't have even thought of had the social worker not contacted us and said, hey, let me sit you down and share a few things. So another program I was referred to in those early years when Mason was just 2 or 3 was called Triple P, which stands for Positive Parenting Program. And again, I was sort of like, oh, I don't know if I want to go sit there 5 or 6 weeks, one night a week. And what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know. But you know what? This was a great support for me as well. And this program introduced us to one of our key training aids and support aids for our son, which is the use of pictures to help them navigate through everyday life. Things like, this is the steps you need to do to go to the bathroom. These are the steps you need to do to take a bath. We're going to go to a birthday party today. First, you're going to get there, then you're going to play, then we're going to open presents, then you're going to have cake. So things that are so natural to us were not natural to Mason, and preparing him in advance with pictures when he struggled with language was a lifesaver. And some days I'm even tempted, now that he's 10, he's doing very well verbally, which we're very fortunate for. But some days I think maybe I should do some pictures just as reminders. So it's amazing what the resources out there introduce you to that you may find absolutely invaluable. So that was another wonderful thing. Of course, our daily routines are still very important. Any sort of craziness to the routine can cause little dips along the way, but we have a much better understanding of what our son needs to navigate his world and the world that we're all in. So it's been great. A little anecdote I often talk about is this understanding. Of course, we didn't know about it in the early days. All new parents, we wanted to take him to swimming lessons at 5 months old. My husband got him into the pool and he just cried and screamed the whole time. We actually called them screaming lessons every week. I'm like, are you packed up for screaming lessons? Here we go. What we didn't know at the time was it was likely the echo of the indoor pool that really made him crazy, because he loved a bath and he loves to be outdoors swimming, but that echo must have got him and we didn't know it. So just things we took for granted that we can smile a little bit more about now, but back then we just couldn't figure out what was going on. So you just never know. The world is a tougher place now. Of course, as Matt said, resources are stretched. We're in a pandemic, and I often, to keep it light, I joke with my colleagues and friends. I say, my son was made for a pandemic, because he doesn't mind sitting at home playing with his stuff. He's not really missing that social world. But truly, the realness of it is he is missing it. He's missing it because we work every single day to help him have the ability to be social and to socialize. And the longer that we stay home, the more we lose all the progress we've made working with him to go out there and be able to interact with all of his friends and those in the world. So it's been a really tough time. So I feel for everyone because, we have to really teach him empathy or sarcasm or happiness for someone else. So being at home, it's a much harder to do, but we're doing a lot of videos and pointing and pausing and reflecting, but it's a tough thing. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes, make sure I haven't missed anything. I think I just want to say that I do still sometimes feel very sad that it is harder for him to get on in this world.
Why do you have peanut butter in the sink?
And there he is. Thank you. I am hopeful, though, that as more and more people show understanding, that not being neurotypical is A-okay, it's wonderful, and these children are just like anyone else, truly, that opportunities will continue to grow. And I love seeing that every single day. Ultimately, as Robin Williams is quoted, everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So be kind always. It has become a mantra for me. And never hesitate to reach out and ask for support, because as you hear our stories, immediately I related to Matt with some of the same experiences. And I think that it lightens your heart the minute that you know that you're not the only one that's experienced something and that there are people out there. So stick with it. We're very fortunate to have these wonderful kids in our lives. And it's a joy. It's just an absolute joy.